Hi, it has been a while since I've done a video, and there's a reason for that. And it is this video today. This is the reason. I decided to go through and work with GetCovers because I wanted to be able to do a video that showed everybody how to work through this process, the tips and tricks and everything that's going to help when choosing to work with GetCovers. I'm Elaine Canyon, and I'm an author and graphic designer. I make YouTube videos here on this channel about cover design and about self-publishing on a shoestring budget and writing as a discovery writer. So the reason that I chose to work with GetCovers, if you've been watching my channel for a while, or if you've watched any of the cover design toolbox videos, you'll know that my favorite cover to ever be created is S.L. Prater's A Court of Tricksters cover, and that was made by the designer St. Jupiter. And it has a very specific style that I absolutely fell in love with, and I banked on that style catching on, and it did not. The trend went a completely different way. And I finally had to make the realization that even though I adored this trend and I thought it was absolutely beautiful and fabulous, it wasn't going to stay. It wasn't going to work. And all of these beautiful covers that I was spending hours upon hours upon hours creating and illustrating were kind of a waste of my time. So I decided to shift, and I figured, well, if I was going to shift, why not shift in a way that I could present here on YouTube how to work with an incredibly popular company. If you're not familiar with GetCovers, they work out of Ukraine. Their parent company is Miblart, and they have a deal where for $10 you can get an ebook cover, and for $35 you can get the paperback and the ebook cover. You don't necessarily get a better deal than that when it comes to getting a cover made. And for the most part, they put out very professional covers, but you have to know how to work with them. And I wanted to be able to give information to people that would be useful in how do I work with GetCovers specifically, since it is such a common place for authors to go, especially authors who are trying to cut down costs or are just starting out and they're trying to get their footing. So I started this process with love and a bit of disorder. And I'm going to tell you right now, whenever you work with GetCovers, you want to schedule as far out as you possibly can. And you want to get in as early as possible. I started in December. I had the cover for Love and a Bit of Disorder that is out now in mid to late January. It took over 6 weeks. It took, I think, almost 8 weeks to get this cover where I wanted. And I'm actually going to screen share with you now, and we're going to talk about the process that I went through and what I ended up getting in this process. There were 9 different iterations of this cover that we went through trying to get it to work. So let me share my screen. So here are some of the mock-ups that I sent to them of ideas. These are let me pull this over here. There we go. So these are the cover mock-ups that the cover examples that I sent of covers that I was like, hey, these are also cozy romantasy books these covers are the feel I'm going for. This is what I'm hoping for. And they were like, great, awesome. So I sent them that, and I showed them what my original cover was, which this is the one that I had made. And so again, this is what I had. This is what I was going for. And these are some of the iterations I got. So the first one was this one, which looks like a Beauty and the Beast retelling, honestly, a poor cover of a Beauty and a Beast retelling. And that's one of the things with GetCovers is that you are often getting brand new designers. You're getting people who are getting trained in how to work with covers so that they ultimately graduate up to be Miblart designers. And I can kind of see what they were going for. So I came back and I was like, all right, these are all of the ideas that I have of different ways to do this. I made them in Canva. I had people who'd helped me make them in Canva because they were friends who had, what's the word I'm looking for? Paid for accounts. So they were able to do more. And then I also put together a whole bunch of other covers. And I was like, okay, look at all of these. I understand that that this is hard, but look at all of these covers. So this is my next tip. Don't send them so much stuff. For iteration number 2, I sent them all of these things. Every single picture you see here, I sent. And it did not help them as much as I thought, because this was the next cover I got. And again, we look like a contemporary romance. So it was very disheartening. I will not lie to you. I was absolutely positive this wasn't going to work. And I came back and I said, this is not the right genre. This is not what I was going for. This does not look like anything I sent you. This is not in trend. And they came back again and they were like, okay, romantasy. And I was like, no, this is not working. And so I highlighted specifically A Recipe for Magic and Mayhem by J.M. Wallace. I highlighted that one and said, I wanted something like that. I picked one cover and I said, I want it something like this. I don't want it to be, I need it to look like a cozy romantasy. I don't want it to look like a contemporary romance, which is what everything they had sent me did. And then finally, we got to, let's open this one. Here. Which finally started to look like what I had asked for. Now, this is the final version. There were a couple of little things that were changed. There were some strange bits here and there, that like strange places that these pink dots had ended up where they had covered up part of the word. And so a lot of that had to be fixed. But for the most part, we finally got there. And like I said, this took almost 8 weeks. And I was so disheartened. I was like, I can't, how in good faith do I recommend this to people other than by saying you're putting in all the time and you're not going to be putting in a lot of money. And that was the best I could hope for. So then I was like, okay, well, now let's do this with Love Ships and Sea Serpents, because Love Ships and Sea Serpents needed a new cover as well. And originally I was going to go with covers like these. I was going to go with the characters on the front, have the ship in the background. And this was the first one I sent. This was the main mock-up I sent. And then I also showed them what this would look like, more or less. Like gave them a couple of font styles with it either on top or down here on the bottom. I went and picked pictures specifically out of Shutterstock that I knew they'd be able to use. And what I ended up with was this. And that was also, again, very disheartening, because I realized very quickly that GetCovers does not excel at meshing bodies and heads and whatnot, which is fine. And you can see here where we ended up. But that was incredibly disheartening. So here's tip number 2. And I went back to them and said, okay, we need to start over. And they said, great, that's going to be $20 to start over. Maybe it was $25. I was like, but it's unlimited revisions, isn't it? Because that's what they advertise. And here's the catch, y'all. It is unlimited revisions of whatever the first design they send you is. So here is my tip. If you get your first design back and you look at it and realize there is absolutely no way we can salvage this, cancel your order. Cancel your order, ask for a refund, buy a new package, start over. It is cheaper and it is a much easier way to go about it. Okay? So that is exactly what I did. And I shipped it again, because not only are these popular in my genre, these also are popular in my genre, this style of cover. And so I sent them these, hoping that they would be able to handle this kind of cover better than they could handle the Photoshop manipulation of people and clothes and all of that. So I sent them those, and then I created a mock-up. Was like, okay, something like this. And as you can see, I just did it in Canva, and it has all of the watermarks on the stuff because I don't have a paid account. But just to show them kind of what I was hoping for. And that gave us this first iteration. And I was like, hey, that actually looked pretty cool. I was happy about it. There were little things here that I needed to fix. I needed them to fix. I needed them to fix like the comma and things like that. But there was very little else that needed to be adjusted. Because in the next one, I also had them bold this. This hadn't been bolded. The catchphrase is sea serpent is and what they thought would bring them together. We fixed the comma, like just those little tiny tweaks. We got it put where it needed to be and adjusted. And I also had him take this tail off the C so that when you get the final version, it was just little things that we fixed. And it's fabulous and it looks great. So all of that to say that if you are working with GetCovers, I would absolutely under no circumstance try to create these kind of covers. I absolutely would not. I'm sure that they can do it. I'm sure they have designers that can do it. But the amount of time it took me to find stock images that looked reasonably like my characters, and then find clothing images that looked reasonably like a pirate would wear or that any fantasy character would wear, and then find a pirate ship background was just absolutely a pain. It was not fun. It was time consuming, and it was a waste of my time in the end because I shifted entirely to a different concept when I found out that it couldn't work. Now, the time it took that I wasted in trying to get all of this done was about another 8 weeks. Now, here's the thing. I finally have this setup, right? And I have this pattern that the designers can work from, which is great because what it means is that when I was getting Love, Mystique, and Mermaids figured out, getting to this cover took me 3 weeks. So I cut the time down in less than half because I already had a pattern laid out. And then getting to the cover for, there we go, Love, Dryads, and Murder also only took me about 3 weeks. I think this one took 4 actually because I had him shift certain things at the very last minute. I looked at a few things and I was like, let's fix. But you can see here that I have a recognizable brand in the way my covers are created now. And so I'll stick with GetCovers for a good while because I know that everything is set up in a way with them that I can get beautiful professional looking covers that are on brand, that fit in the brand file. And just to show you, like for this one, we started here. So I sent in, and this is what they gave me. And this looks almost identical to an extent to what Love, Mystique, and Mermaids looked like, which is part of why I started having them change and shift things. And so then we went to here, and I liked the trees in the background better because they didn't look like they were Spooky Alley, and we changed these here. And again, all of this stuff was stuff that I had sent them. I went into Shutterstock and found the things that I wanted them to use. So I found these tree images here. Or these leaf images here. Like a lot of this I picked. And then I have in here, so this is what I sent them. So I knew it needed to have a frog. I knew it needed to have a bow. I knew it needed to have a dagger. And then I knew I wanted trees in the background and I wanted some foliage around the sides. And I gave them some options there. That's one of the things that's incredibly important. And then these were my comp covers for that I sent them as well. That's incredibly important to have when you are sending GetCovers anything. It is so much easier to get to something like this when you can send them a mock-up even if it's like this, where I literally went into Canva and in 10 minutes, I was like, I need a tree in the background. I need foliage on the sides. I need it to say this. And I need these things. This literally took me less than 10 minutes. But I knew when I sent this off that I already had the format that got me here. I knew they had the base image to start from. And that is, I think, what makes GetCovers useful and to an extent kind of a steal of a deal if you're in a position to take the time to create that mock-up cover, because if you can get them to the point where they have a baseline like this, covers go so much faster with them. Because for Love, Dryads, and Murder, I was able to send in and say, hey, this is the cover that you've already made here. And this is the cover that you've already made here. And I need this cover to follow the same pattern that you've already created. Now, that does stand to say that it doesn't follow this pattern. And it does to an extent in that I still have the frame, but this is a standalone. Love and a Bit of Disorder does not continue or go anywhere. It is a standalone short story. And so I was okay with this being different, but for here, this is the start of a series. And for here, this is the start of a series. And here, this is a continuation of this series. I wanted it to be very obvious that these are the books that continue, that they are my books, and that yes, they are part of the same author, but they are not going to be continuations of this story. Okay, so I've shown you the process of getting all of these covers done with GetCovers. So far I've done 4 covers with them. I've done Love and a Bit of Disorder, Love, Ships and Sea Serpents, Love, Mystiques and Mermaids, and Love, Dryads and Murder. I'm doing well. It seemed like such a good idea to name these books all this way. All right, but so I've done these 4 covers with them. Here's the things that you going into it need to know. The first is that your first cover is probably going to take longer than you think. You might get lucky. You might get a designer who's just about ready to graduate into Miblar, and they will rock the park for you, which would be awesome. I would love that to happen for you, but I want you to plan that that's not going to happen. You want to go in knowing that you have tons of time. At a minimum, go in expecting 8 weeks. That is the bare minimum I would go in expecting, is 8 weeks. Just because 8 weeks was the longest it took me. The hope is that it goes faster. GetCovers has a quick turnaround time for iterations usually. And if they can't make that turnaround time, they will email you and say, hey, we need more time. Is that okay? And if you say it's not okay, they're going to offer you a refund, just so you know. That I haven't experienced that, but I've talked to other authors. If you say I need that time doesn't work for me, their offer is to refund you the money. The second thing is go in with a plan already in place. You're going to go in with, I would say 3. That seems to be the right amount, 3 to 4. I wouldn't do more than 4. 3 to 4 comp covers that you can show them and say, these books are in the design style that I want. They're in my genre. They have all of the things that I need my cover to have. That's the second thing. So first, you're going to plan for a minimum of 8 weeks. Second, you're going to go in with comp titles, 3 to 4 comp titles. Next, you're going to create your own design mock-up. So you are going to look at those covers. You're going to go into Canva or anywhere else, and don't worry about the watermarks. Like I said, I didn't worry about the watermarks on everything I showed you for Love, Ships and Sea Serpents. Don't worry about that. Okay. Throw it up there. Canva's going to throw a fit and say, hey, do you want to pay to be able to print this off or download this without the watermark? The answer is no. GetCovers doesn't care that the watermark's on it. You're just going to send it off to them so that they know. You want to make sure that that mock-up design is as close to what you actually want as possible. I went in to Designing Love and a Bit of Disorders cover with them thinking that I was working with a designer like myself. I will work with somebody on a design. I will get input and feedback, and then I will create something. It's part of what I love about design is I will create a thing. And GetCovers is different. These designers will make exactly what you tell them. Exactly. They are not looking at it saying, well, is this in trend? And how can I take these elements that the author has said and adjust them so that they fit with what is going on? No, that is not what they're doing. They will make exactly what you say. So it is your responsibility to make sure that you have everything mapped out as to what your cover should look like. And then your mock-up that you make in Canva or BookBrush or wherever and send to them, they are going to build off of that. So now the next thing that you're going to do is when you get that first design back, you're going to pick at most, never more than this, at most 4 things to have them fix at a time. Never send more than 4 because they will not do a whole list in one iteration. They'll usually do like your top 3 things, and then they will send it back to you because they have to have that 3-day turnaround. They promise a 3 to 5 day turnaround for design iterations. And you are probably one of 10 authors that they're working on the cover for. So just keep that in mind that they're not going to do more than 3 to 4 changes per iteration that they send. I would very much suggest you do 3 at a time. Just the top 3 things. You keep your own list. You have your list of like these 15 things need to change, and then do 3 at a time. This is part of why number 1 thing was expect 8 weeks minimum. Okay, because you're going to be going back and forth like this for a while. So only send for 3 to 4 things at a time. And then I'm going to say again what I said when I was talking about Love Ships and Sea Serpents. If you get that first design iteration back and you realize that this is not going to work and there is not a way for the designer to salvage what they've done and your cover is going to be ruined, ask for the refund. Cancel it, ask for the refund, buy the package again, and start from scratch with a completely different design. Okay? Don't send back the exact same stuff. Don't sit there and try and cycle through for a different designer. That's not how this works. If it's you were trying to create, like in Love Ships and Sea Serpents, if you were trying to create a image-based design where human figures had to be manipulated, and you realized that the human figures could not be manipulated the way you needed, cancel a design, go to an object-based cover, start again. Okay? Don't pay the $20 because you don't have to. There's no penalty. There's no penalty for canceling completely and doing it again. I ended up with the same design manager. Okay, it's okay. That's the next thing that I want to talk about is that you're not ever actually talking to your designer. You're talking to the project manager. So all of your emails are going to come from someone who is not designing your cover. They are coming from someone who is over the designer of your cover. So they will send you the covers, and then you will say yes, no, maybe, tell them what needs to be fixed. And then that design project manager is going to send the stuff you say back to the designer. Okay. So don't ever expect to talk directly to your designer. Everything you say is going to go through the project manager, and everything that the designer does goes through the project manager to get to you. So don't expect to be working directly with anybody but a project manager. Now, all of that said, I stand by what I said in a video a little while ago about GetCovers being a great option if you're on a shoestring budget. I am very happy with my covers. Part of getting to my covers is that I am a designer. I was able to create the mock-up. I was able to talk to them and realize how to work in the system they were working in, even though it was a very different environment than I'm used to. It's a very different way of working with designers. If you've worked with GetCovers and you're looking to graduate to a different group, like if you're wanting to work with a private designer, be aware that this is going to be a very different system when you shift, because GetCovers is focused on getting quality products out to you as quickly as possible. And a professional designer still wants to get you a quality product, and they do want to do it in the time frame, but they are going to schedule with you the amount of time that they need in order to get you a quality product. And they will likely talk with you about what you want. They're going to be invested with you on making sure that these covers work. They're going to be aware of what the trends are. They're not going to need to focus so much on your comp covers. They'll want to see them. But a designer that's working independently is going to be more interested in knowing what your mock-up looks like, what it is you want to see. And a lot of designers working independently might not even need a mock-up. They might just need to sit and talk with you or have you fill out a form that says, this is what I want, this is how I think it's going to look. And they'll be able to extrapolate and move from there. So keep that in mind, that if you're moving either from GetCovers to an independent designer, or you're moving from an independent designer to GetCovers for like a reader magnet or something, the experience is going to be not quite night and day, but very, very close. It's going to be like early morning sun to noon. Very different experiences. But all that said, I still think GetCovers is awesome. I think that they've done a great job. I'm very happy with my covers. If you're publishing on a shoestring budget, GetCovers is a fantastic option, especially with all the different software programs that are out there that will take your ebook cover and do a wraparound with it for free. For your paperback, I think that that's a fabulous option, because for $10, you get a cover. And then if you absolutely need the paperback right this second, then for free, you can have the paperback. You also can always go back to the order in GetCovers and start the conversation back up and say, hey, this was the cover you made for me. I want to add a paperback edition now. And they'll say, great. And they'll charge you for the paperback edition. You can do the same thing and say, I need the hardback now, or I need the audiobook now. They'll just charge you for that one format of it and take the same design and then shift it into the new format that you need. So don't stress so much. If you're like, well, I can only afford the ebook cover because I can only do the $10, great, do it. I think that if you've got the time and the patience and the willingness to keep coming back again and again and working on it again and again, you cannot beat this price for the kind of covers that you can get when you're willing to work through it. I hope this was helpful. This is part of the reason why I've been gone from YouTube for so long, is that I wanted to do this video. I wanted to show you how to work with GetCovers, and then I wanted to show you the covers as they came out, but I realized that this was not where I wanted cover reveals to be happening. I wanted cover reveals to be happening with my newsletter and with my readers. And so I pushed everything back and pushed everything back. But now all of these covers have been revealed. All of these covers are out in the world where people can see them. And so I felt like, okay, we can make this video. Nothing is going to be going to the wrong audience at the wrong time. And from here on out, my covers will be with GetCovers until the trend changes again. And if the trend changes again, then I'll see where the business is at. And if the business is at a good place, then maybe I'm going to shift to paying another designer. Because as much as I champion the people who want to make their own covers and want to do it well, it's a lot of time. Illustrating my covers took me roughly 80 hours per cover. And that's time that I wasn't spending writing. And it's time I wasn't spending doing any of the promoting or anything like that for my books. And so for me, it was the right decision to step back from doing that and give myself time back to be writing and be promoting my books. And I got great covers out of it. And so we'll see when the trend changes again. Maybe I will choose an independent designer to work with, or maybe I'll move up to Miblart and see what Miblart does. We'll see. If you found this video helpful, if it helped you understand better how to work with GetCovers and what to expect while working with them, I hope you'll give it a thumbs up. That helps other authors find it too. And start to find the process of working through getting everything ready for self-publishing a little bit better. But until next time, I'm Elaine Canyon. I post videos on cover design, discovery writing, and self-publishing on a shoestring budget. Hope to see you again soon.